Hey guys, welcome back to the Crypto Wave. Quick update here. First of all, we're going to make this nice and quick in regards to this spreadsheet that I keep track of. Actually, a couple of unique things that I noticed here. First, today the emissions moved to deflationary, so we should start seeing the total amount of supply of pigs as well as the total amount of supply of dogs slowly, or the emissions should at least stop or slow down pretty significantly. It's on the lowest emission rate at that point. We did see a nice decent spike in the price here from 244 to 270 and actually hit a peak of I think 301 today, simply because he did this AMA yesterday, or at least in my opinion, he did this AMA yesterday, released the white paper for Piggy Bank, which we'll go over in just a moment. And it was pretty bullish, and so I think there's going to be some people that are going to want to buy some pigs, so you're going to start seeing this slowly start creeping up. And there was some pretty significant buys of about 100,000 here and 20,000 there, those types of things. Now people were selling them down also, and you're going to see that when we go over the numbers here. Dogs still continue to go down. You should see this start slowing a bit because again, it went deflationary for both pigs and dogs. So you should see less dogs hitting the market, which means the buy pressure or the sell pressure should diminish a little bit. The BUSD Treasury did go down. However, the overall volume went up significantly in the trade. So it didn't go down as much as it usually does. It did creep down nonetheless though, because it's still paying out those admissions that are intended, and this is still not quite to the first day high of almost 3.5 million, but it's pretty close. It's about 1 million below. So, but from 1.1 to 2.6, just on the transactions from this day is actually pretty significant. Now, the interesting part is you're actually going to see that the BSD per pig reward actually went up. Now, went from 43 to 46. However, the treasury went down. So why is that? Two things. One is, as we know, 30% of this value of the daily trade volume, well, the tax fee, I'm sorry, so there's 3% tax on the trade volume here, and a percentage of that, 30% of that 3% goes automatically to dividends. So the higher this trade volume goes, the more it gets fed into that daily. Not to mention, you actually start having a little bit of a decrease in the amount of pigs locked up here in the pig pen. So we went from 85, we've been steady in the 85 until we get just below 84 and then down a little bit more. And where did that come from? Well, it didn't come from people selling their positions altogether, because as you can see, we're actually up 94 more players in holding pigs. I think what this is boiling down to, and this increase, is people pulling some out of this pig pen in order to start preparing and pairing it up with BUSD, which is also why we had this trade volume go up. So a lot of people probably bought some, sold it on the market, which is why this went up to 302 and back down again, so they can start pairing to BUSD to get ready for what I'm about to talk about next, which is the next game called Piggy Bank. Dogs also, emissions should be dropping. Total dogs locked up still in that 24% range, which is good, which means most people are, I think, continually to compound and trying to generate more pigs. And we did have one additional person, which is good because we were negative last 2 days. So now we have one additional person coming in. I think we'll start seeing these numbers go up as the ecosystem continues to develop. So that's a quick rundown of what I think is going on in the value. This is still going up. This is a good number to see. But let's get into the nit and gritty here. And what I wanted to go over is this guy right here. So the pig pen, or the piggy bank, is going to be the newest thing. So he's done a couple of AMAs. This isn't a huge white paper. It gives a lot of information, but it also leaves some information out that I'm going to be curious about. And we'll go over those numbers in just a moment. What is the piggy bank going to be, and what is it going to do? Well, if anybody's in here and they know about the drip garden is a liquidity provider. Well, he doesn't want to call it a game anymore, so it's not really a game, but in essence, it's a liquidity provider pool that actually generates, look at that, I went up to 277 since I did my spreadsheet. It does a pool that, as you put in the drip BNB liquidity tokens, it's kind of a game where it gives you seeds, and those seeds grow plants. The more plants you have, the more seeds you get. Those seeds are sellable to get drip BUSD out of the program. There's a lot of logistics to it. I'm in it, but I haven't done videos on it because there's a lot of stuff. If you go into the chat, there's a ton of people who know this particular mechanism a lot better than me that will be able to help you out. It did break 70 in the contract balance, 70,000 drip. That's really good. So it continues to go up. So this thing's been a juggernaut. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because this uses a liquidity thing, the way he created this platform is very similar to what he's going to be doing with the Piggy Bank with a couple of different things. One is it is going to be Pig BUSD LP tokens that you're going to need. So before this launches, you're going to want to have your pigs available. You're going to want to pair it with BUSD. I suggest you do it over here on the liquidity, so you have an add pigs liquidity right here, simply because my understanding is it minimizes some of the tax that are going to be going against you if you do it on PancakeSwap. It takes the element of the drip garden as well as hex. Anybody familiar with hex knows that basically what you do is you purchase hex, or in this case you will purchase pig. You can then lock it into a timed stake. And when, depending on how long you lock those pigs up in the stake, depends on the bonuses you get. The unique part about the Piggy Bank and what he's doing is the bonuses that you get are actually applied to that principal. So if you put $1,000 in, you get a bonus on that $1,000 dependent on how long you get to go in. Now, he did mention the maximum is going to be 5 years, but he has not mentioned a minimum, and he hasn't mentioned if you're able to do weekly, monthly, daily. There hasn't been that mention yet, so we'll wait and see what that says. However, what he did mention, which if you could, one is that it's not inflationary, which I'm sorry, let's go back to this. This is actually a big deal. So the reason this is really important is because it's going to be able to pay those bonuses based off the fees and transactions built into the ecosystem itself. So from what he said on the AMA, if you have a value in principle in the Piggy Bank, you will get that value when the time comes. Now, there's obviously no guarantee what the price of pigs will be at the time and various things, but the premise of this is the longer you hold, the bigger the bonus, and the longer you hold it, and the longer this platform is around, hopefully the more the token actually appreciates. And that's actually going to help pig also, simply because people are going to be buying pigs and locking them up, decreasing the circulating supply out there. So it is not a linear bonus, and we're going to go over that here. Let's drop down here real quick. So the way he has it set up, I don't understand this equation. However, what it basically means is when you first put your principal in, you have very, very minimal bonus. This in essence is incentivizing people to hold it, because the majority, that's the 75% of the bonus that you're going to be getting. So for instance, if you stake for, we'll say 1 year, and let's say it's 100% bonus. I don't know what the numbers are yet because he hasn't mentioned it, but let's say it's 100%. What this is basically saying is you're going to get 25% of that bonus. So 25% of that 100% will be in the first, 30 days, I think, or no, it depends on the time. So actually you're going to get that in the first 25% will be, or I'm sorry, let's go down here before I misspeak. 30% of the multiplier is added to the first 75%. Thank you. So if you have 100%, the first 30% is in this first, the first 75% of that time lock. So if you stake for a year, 3/4 of the year, you're only getting that 30% bonus. However, once you get past that 75% mark, it logarithmically goes up exponentially to give you the remainder 75% of what you're owed in the last 25% of time. So if you stake for a year, it incentivizes you to stay for that whole year, because that's when the true bonus comes on. Now, what is cool about this is if you do put $1,000 in and you get a bonus, as that bonus is getting added to your value here, it's getting added to your principal, and you're earning that ROI, or that daily dividend, from this particular protocol as it goes up. So if you started with 1,000, as this creeps up, you're up to 1,020, 1,050, 1,000, or 1,100. You're getting the dividends based on that bonus being added to your principal as you go here. So the last bit of that time lockup, your dividends are going to be insane on that. Now, he also did say that if your time runs out, so if you hit that year, your principal is then available to you. Now, you have a couple of choices. You can actually either relock it for a particular amount of time, thus reactivating bonuses and things again, or you can leave it right where it's at, and your bonuses are done, and that final principal value is yours to garner dividends on, or you can withdraw it and do what you want with it. which I thought was a really cool idea, because once you complete your bonus, it's kind of up to you if you want to restake it or just leave it there to keep generating dividends for you. There's a huge referral system. The biggest thing to take out of this is you need to hold dogs. And he did say it's okay to have those dogs in the single stake pool. Those would count towards... yeah, in fact, it says right here, it's dependent on how many dogs you have staked in the animal farm. So what does this do and why is it important? I don't really get a whole lot of referrals. It'd be nice if you guys click my link. I really don't think people do, but it really makes no difference to me. As long as I provide you the information you get on these projects, with or without me, I'm just trying to get people to make money here. But the biggest thing is this is going to incentivize people to start buying more dogs and staking more dogs. So with that being said, we should see an increase of this value start going up, of the percentage of dogs locked up there. Thus, and also obviously when the more dogs get locked up, the more the price should appreciate. There is some referral information here if you guys are interested in it. We know that it's going to be Pig's liquidity. What I would like to go over, just to kind of sum this up, because I know my videos will sometimes run a little bit long, is I threw some questions down here of things that we just don't know yet. So first thing that we don't know, what's the minimum staking time? He hasn't discussed that yet. We know that 5 years is the maximum staking time, but we don't know the minimum yet. Can we pull the daily div? So as we're earning those dividends on the principal that are locked under time lock, and we're getting dividends that he said that we're allowed to compound technically, so we can actually compound those dividends as they earn, but can we just pull those dividends out without affecting our time stake and everything? He didn't mention that yet, so I'm curious to see what that's going to be. I would imagine if we can compound it, then we should probably be able to withdraw it too, but I don't want to assume anything. If we can pull the dividends, does it do anything to the time? Does it restake it? Does it renew? If it's a 1 year and you start pulling dividends, does every time you pull it, does it renew it to a year again, extending time to it? I don't think so either, but again, it's going to be a curious question, and I'm going to wait and see what happens with it. The reason I don't think that will be the case is because another unique feature that I didn't go over yet is that you can actually have multiple stakes per wallet. So you can actually stake some for a year, and then stake some for 2 years, stake some for 3 years, and they're all on your wallet being tracked, which is really cool. It does say to get the average of 3% daily, you need to meet or exceed the Piggy Bank, the average of the Piggy Bank users. So this is actually supposed to pay you 3% a day of what your principal is. But if you actually look, it says up to 3%. And he said the reason you get up to 3% is that you need to compound on your principal proportional to the amount of people compounding. Meaning, so if the majority of people in this program are compounding, say 5 days a week, and you're compounding over only 3 to 4 days a week, you are not going to hit that 3% every day. So you actually need to be compounding at or above what the average people are, is the way I understood it. And which makes sense, because you should get that 3% if you are compounding, in essence, supporting this program, supporting the pigs, and supporting the piggy bank. You should get that 3% in appreciation, I guess you could say, of supporting it. But if you're throw your principal in and you're just withdrawing every day, well, then you're just going for that buck. And you're not truly supporting it. I mean, you are in the fact that you're participating, but not to the degree of somebody compounding all the time. So I would like to know, is that going to be displayed somewhere? You know, is it going to say, hey, average daily compound or average weekly compound is 5 days a week or something? That way we can kind of play our game appropriately. And lastly, he hasn't talked about what the actual bonus rates are. You know, what's going to be, he said that 5 years was the max. He says it is going to be a value that exponentially goes up. He gave the example of 40% for 1 year stake, 120% for a 2 year stake, and a 600% for a 3 year stake. Those are examples. That doesn't mean those are the actual values, but if it's something along those lines, each year he added, the first one went up 3 times, the second time it went up 5 times. So if that's the case, then the 5 year lockup could be a pretty significant value. But again, he just made those numbers up, but he hasn't actually told us what those rates are yet. So I'm going to be curious to see what those are. So that's my quick rundown. I'm going to end the video here because I don't like going on too much. There are some other unique features. I'll put a link, or I'll try to put a link for this white paper in the description below. But if you have questions, or maybe you guys have some answers that I didn't have, or if you have any questions about what we went over, drop some comments in there. And as always, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. Okay, I hope you guys have a good night. And thanks for tuning in. Bye.